Thank you. So welcome everyone, and thank you for joining our panel about traffic management for smart cities. My name is Tal Kreisler. I'm a co-founder and CEO of No Traffic. We have gathered here a group of urban mobility experts and visionaries, each in their own domain. And I have to say I'm super excited to be here, not just because of this distinguished panel, but also since this is one of my first conferences since March 2020. So thank you everyone for organizing this event, and I do hope to see many more in the near future. So the term smart city was actually first coined somewhere at around 2005. What it means is, in order for a city to be considered smart, it needs to have three main key verticals or elements. Connectivity, data, and government support. A major aspect of making a city smart is its transportation infrastructure, sometimes referred to as smart mobility. An enabler to many services and apps we're consuming on a daily basis and sometimes take as for granted. Since urbanization is increasing rapidly, with the current estimation predict that more than 6.5 billion people will live in urban environments by 2050, which is about 70% of the world population, today it is more important than ever to adopt new ways to transport people and goods through urban environments. So I want to start with a quick introduction of the people in this panel, really quick. Ashok, perhaps we'll start with you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tal, and good evening, Tel Aviv. My name is Ashok Tiberneni. I'm the head of product management for smart cities and smart connected spaces at Qualcomm. And my role is to make sure we have complete end-to-end solutions that we offer to the city along with our platforms, silicon, and services. Thank you.
Tiffany?
Hi, everyone. My name is Tiffany Chu. I am the former CEO and co-founder at Remix. And Remix is a collaborative transportation planning platform. And we work with about 500 cities and transit agencies around the world. Fun fact, we started off as a hackathon project at a nonprofit called Code for America. And we built a prototype to help residents of San Francisco to suggest better transit routes to the city. And it went viral on Twitter in 2014. And fast forward 7 years, we actually recently got acquired by Via, who is here today, also based in Tel Aviv, and excited to be with you all here. This is my first time in Israel.
Thanks. Eran?
Hi everyone, my name is Eran Shir. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Nexar. Nexar operates the largest network of road cameras, allowing us to capture over 150 million miles of video every month from every city in the US and turn that into data to power smart cities and such applications.
Smadar?
Hello, I'm Dr. Smadar Itzkovich. I'm the founder and CEO of Israel Smart Mobility Living Lab. We are a non-profit organization recognized by the Israel Innovation Authority as a consortium, as a technological consortium for smart mobility in Israel. We provide a safe digital platform for sharing data and technology based on collaboration between tech companies and the public sector. We have over 30 members in our consortium, startups, high-tech companies, governmental authorities, cities, academia. Actually, No Traffic and Nexar are part of our group, and Eran Shir is our chairman. And we all sharing data, sharing technology, doing projects, facing all kinds of challenges in the public area for the business good and for the public good as well.
Thank you. So in recent years, we've seen some big names entering the smart mobility and smart cities verticals, such as Qualcomm and Google, Intel, NVIDIA and Amazon, and some also of the traditional car manufacturers, such as GM, Ford, VW Group, and others. And I'd like to kick off our discussion addressing my last statement, and I'll start with Ashok. So first of all, good morning, Ashok, and thank you for joining us so early, live from San Diego, California. Qualcomm is well known for its chipset making capabilities, and you lead the product management for smart cities and smart connected spaces at Qualcomm. Can you share why Qualcomm ventured into this vertical and what's the biggest challenge that you're seeing?
Sure, Tal. One of the big reasons, Qualcomm, is interested and entered space is because for the public utilities or for cities that require a multitude of service offerings, there's a lot of fragmentation today. And there's a lot of systems that are kind of siloed within, a municipality or a city. And that provides a great opportunity for somebody, a player like platform, like Qualcomm, who's providing a complete end-to-end solutions, along with a platform that helps multi-use. One of the big challenges that we see here is the legacy systems that are there in the city. Needs to become working with whatever new technologies that we are proposing. And it has to be a multi-use technology. That means any connectivity solution or a sensor solution that we offer to the city needs to be doing more than just mobility. It has to be addressing multiple use cases. And that's what enables the city to make sure that the advances in technologies are always kept up to speed. In the mobility world, that is a big challenge because the legacy infrastructure in some cases is 20, 30 years old, and we need to make sure those are integrated to the current technology, and that is a big challenge for the cities today.
Thank you, Ashok. And I have to say it's super fascinating to see all these tech giants moving from their core to other verticals, starting to operate in these traditional domains. So, Eran, what do you think is the biggest challenge of mobility at scale in urban environments?
Well, the way I look at this market, I think of us right now as like in the internet of 1997. Right? So if you think back to what was the experience in 1997, pre-Google and pre-Wikipedia, if you had a question, some knowledge you wanted, you had to go and research it, and it was not obvious that you'll get an answer, definitely not in 5 minutes, right? Fast forward kind of 10 years after, in 2007, we all became kind of accustomed to this point where any question that we can come up with, we just go on Google and we pretty much find an answer in like a minute, right? And it becomes like an obvious thing. And I think that the next decade, we'll see this happening in the real world, right? Like today, if a city official or if an algorithm that the city employs wants to know about how many trucks are right now parked on the curb or how many buses are stuck in front of a private car in a bus-only lane or any other question, they cannot do that. They're starting to now do it, but fast forward in a decade from now, you'll have cameras in every corner, you'll have cameras in every vehicle, you have sensors and lidars and all this kind of stuff. You'll have the systems to integrate all of this data into a digital twin, a live map of the world, and you'll be able to both answer these questions in real time and also employ algorithms to optimize the organism that is the city. And it's I think that in the case of a smart city, it takes a village. It's not like just a single solution, single type of company, single type of sensors. It will be an amalgamation of many solutions coming together towards that vision of doing for the physical world what Google and Wikipedia and all these things did for information on the web.
Thank you. And I'm sure that Smadar have a lot to add for this as well.
Yes.
After coming from the municipal side as well in the past.
I always said that a smart city, every city wants to be smart, and every governmental authorities want to be smart, and mostly they are the owner of the infrastructure. but the data and the technology are outside. And without collaboration, they cannot face alone all kinds of important challenges, such as resilience, environment, safety, accessibility, congestion. They have to find a way to work together, and we as high-tech companies or startups have to find the way to provide an holistic solution for the public area. All kinds of technologies that are working together. This is, I think, high value of product that we can provide for the cities. And the decision makers in the city are not accessible to quality data. Quality data, real-time data are not available for them. So mayors or managers cities sometimes receiving decision not based on data because they don't have the data. So by working together, by providing on one hand the infrastructure and on the other hand, sharing the data with the city, I think this is a win-win situation.
Great. So, Tiffany, you had quite a journey in the urban mobility space, right? Working as the first UX designer at Zipcar back in 2014. Took a year off for a fellowship called Code for America. That's an organization that helps local government to approach problems via using technology. And then co-founded and turned the CEO of Remix to be acquired this year by VIA. You're also a commissioner of the San Francisco Department of Environment and sits on the city's Congestion Pricing Policy Advisory Committee. But I have another fun fact. You hope not to ever own a car. She's never gonna be your customer. Why is it so important to have equality when it comes to mobility?
So I think what's interesting about everything you just read about my background is that being one foot in the transportation and urban planning world and then another foot in technology and venture capital and fundraising, and there seems to be a very big disconnect around kind of what is it that cities and planners think that they really need and what the venture capital and startup community is trying to sell. And I think what's very interesting about this disconnect or Venn diagram of overlap is that oftentimes if you are a member of the city staff or public sector agency, you almost kind of have a really good idea of what it is that would improve your system, whether it's higher frequency buses, making sure that the buses come every 10 minutes instead of every 30 minutes or 45 minutes, making sure that they're on time, making sure that there's a protected bike lane where there's a lot of cyclists and scooters and can separate them from pedestrians. There's a lot of really basic elements of transportation that many quote-unquote smart cities do not get right today. And so there's almost this foundational piece of why transportation exists, and I think it's very fascinating to be at this conference where there's so many technologists trying to apply really, really cutting-edge technology to a very, very human problem. And when you think about why transportation exists, it's to get people from point A and point B. And the reason behind that is because there's actually this really famous Harvard study done a few years ago where the zip code that you're born in, at least in the US, probably applicable to places around the world, the zip code you're born in is the single largest contributor to whether or not you can move upward economically. And so transportation becomes a pathway for opportunity, what kind of jobs you can get, where you can get them, and what kind of lives you lead as a result. And I think this is essentially a public responsibility of local governments. And sometimes I think that's forgotten in the midst of all the technology.
So, Smadar, I want to refer the next question to you, since you have a great overview. As we see more advanced technologies becoming prevalent in our domain, what urban mobility application would you most like to see in use? And let's not consider the amazing technology that sits here.
Improving our life. This is what the application. I think, like I mentioned, there are 5 major challenges that we have to face it in order to improve our life. So I chose safety and environment. And the roads exist. We have to find a way to manage them better. So all kinds of applications that regards on traffic management are very, very important, I think. The environment issues, as I mentioned, the safety issue. I think we don't use enough technology in order to save lives in the roads. And all kinds of challenges regards accessibility. So I will give you one example of projects that I involve in with some of our members. We are running a very interesting project with Netivei Israel. You know, Netivei Israel is the owner of like 90% of the roads in Israel, and they want to manage it better, to use data in order to manage this road, and they took Road 2, and they're working with us, 8 companies working together to provide all kind of data and tools in order to improve the traffic management of Road 2. It's like a use case. So imagine, move it, Nexar, Opon, BWR, tomorrow, all kind of data, weather, smart cameras, mapping, all kind of data we provide to command center of Netivei Israel. So by working together, we can improve the safety in this road, we can improve the traffic management and other aspects. It's a good use case. This is the Living Lab. Living Lab is running advanced technology with many partners in a real environment, in real time. By doing this, we can learn what kind of data and technology works better and what less. And then to take this solution and replicate it to other roads in Israel and the world. This is the goal. I hope I answered your question.
Very politically correct.
It was a long answer to a short question.
So you are supposed to choose one, but you're very politically correct, so you choose all, which is great. Ashok, what kind of specific technology you'd like to see vastly used?
Connectivity across the board, Tal. For the cities, we always look at, hey, the latest and greatest, but we often see in most of the cities that whatever new technologies that we put in doesn't reach the unconnected, doesn't reach the folks that really need it in the end. So from our perspective, I think it's very, very important that we make this digital divide go away. Make sure that whatever new technology equity is available to all, we have to democratize that piece of how the city offers these services to all its citizens. I think it's very important to make sure that the city is in control of providing this digital equity. And it brings up to a very important problem the city is trying to solve is, if they had a chance to offer this kind of connectivity across the board for all of its systems, including mobility, I think that's what will really help. And in this case, private networks that are able to connect people and devices and systems together are the way of the future.
Thank you. Tiffany?
Ooh, I would like to question the question a little bit. I don't know if there is a singular application that will solve all of our problems.
What's something that you'd like to see if you had to choose one?
Okay, so I think one that I'm really excited about, and I've seen in a handful of cities around the world, is as cities are starting to prioritize public transit in very high traffic corridors, they're painting these transit only or transit priority lanes. But sometimes cars still get in the way, and so sometimes you have like one person blocking a bus that has 60 to 80 people in it. Somehow the one person thinks that they're more important than the 60 to 80 people. And so there's some really interesting traffic camera technology where the bus will have a camera on the vehicle itself, and then they can read the license plate, and then that person will get a fine because they deserve it.
Perhaps Ran can help.
I was actually asked to implement that application 5 years ago.
And what happened?
We decided we don't want to go into the fine creation business. There are other companies, actually a few Israeli companies that are doing well exactly for this application. But I totally agree with you on the fact that we have a lot of potential in applying AI and vision in particular, crowdsourced vision, in order to solve all of these roadblocks that we have in the city. I would say that for me, the thing that I can already see coming down the pike that is really exciting is this concept of shared memory, where every vehicle, and not only vehicles, also embedded sensors in the city, are sharing what they see with everyone else. I think that one of the challenges that we see, definitely from a safety perspective, but also from optimization perspective, is that today every vehicle is like in Mad Max universe, right? Like it's driving, trying to combat with all the other vehicles around how to best navigate the city, especially in Tel Aviv, right? But not only. And I think that once we manage and we finally now have both the infrastructure from a connectivity perspective, compute that is embedded in the city, and sensors in the vehicles to actually implement that vision, where every vehicle is aware of not only what's happening next to him, but actually what's happening 50, 100, 300 yards away. That allows us to really see the future and really get, not jump into a hole that maybe a smart braking system will save us from. So I am most excited about seeing that getting realized, and I think these days with the compute coming from major players with 5G and all this kind of stuff, with new AI technology, it's within our reach.
Cool. So we don't have a lot of time left. So next one, let's try to be short. Tiffany, where do you see urban mobility in 5 years, and what needs to happen in order for us to get there?
So I think what's really important for this entire industry to understand is that transportation and traffic is really a problem of geometry. And the reason why we have traffic is because too many people are trying to go to the same place at the same time. So the only answer to that problem is, how do we move the most number of people in the least amount of space? And whether that's, prioritization of more, vulnerable modes over others. I'm really excited about everything being electrified, really excited about everything being automated. But if we have the same number of cars that are on Tel Aviv streets today, and everyone is just, an electric and an automated vehicle, we still have the same amount of traffic regardless. So we're really not solving that problem until we get to the point of moving the most number of people in the least amount of space and getting people out of their private vehicles.
So Ashok, I know you are aiming big. Where do you see urban mobility in 5 years?
Along with electrification and other things, what I really, envision is, how are these going to be self-sustaining in the long run? So to me, along with all the greatest technologies that, the ecosystem is producing, really what, in 5 years we would really be seeing is how this turn into the business models for the cities that are self-sustaining and that are able to do this in the long run without a big impact to the city's budget. To me, that's where, in the next 5 years, things are changing so much that it allows the cities to go do this.
Iran?
For me, I would love to see growth in the extreme sides of mobility. So buses and mass transportation on the one hand, micromobility on the other hand. If we make micromobility safer, if we make mass transportation something that is more efficient and more prevalent, I think we'll be on a path for a better future. I think that keeping up with the current state of things is probably a bad idea. I was just stuck for an hour in traffic today. It's not fun, and we should work to improve it.
Thanks, Manar.
I think Eran mentioned connectivity, automotive, keeping the rules of the environment, of privacy, of the IP of the companies, working together, and by working together and sharing data in a safe way, we can accelerate all the solutions and, all kind of micromobility and other ways of going from one point to other point better.
Great. So we just ran out of time. So I want to thank Ashok for joining us remotely. And thanks Smadar, Eran, and Tiffany. I do hope that in 5 years we'll grab an autonomous shuttle and get here without spending time on traffic jams.
Good luck with that.
And thank you very much, everyone, for listening. Thank you.
Thanks, Tal.
Thank you.